Let's look at a couple examples where we have to write these different matrices as a system of linear equations. And then here in a second, we'll look at some examples like that. And that's all this video is going to be about. So if you don't need it, let me know in advance. Okay, notice I have 2 before I have this bar. So this, it will tell you, but usually if they don't say anything, I let my first column represent my x's and my second column represent my y's. This will be what it equals, your constant. So here, I'm going to write this as a system. It means 2x, because this is a -2, it's -2y equals 12. It's that easy. Usually you go this direction. You take your equation and you write it as a matrix, but they're making you go both ways. So this one would be a 9x plus 3y equals 27. Now, what if you have zeros thrown in there like this? Now, first of all, notice there's 3 of them. Well, no big deal. I'm going to make this my x, my y, my z, and this equals the boring constant at the end. So it looks like I have a 1x right here. There's no y's, so I don't need to write it. 3z, so plus 3z equals 4. That's simple. So this would give me a -2x plus a 1y. Okay, no z's, don't need to write it, equals -10. Same thing here, no x's, but it looks like I have a 4y minus 5z equals 18. Okay, so that's how you write them as a linear system of linear equations. Okay, I also noticed on your homework, they want you to get used to what does this mean. This right here is your row 1, and this is your row 2. Okay, all they're asking, notice this double arrow, they want you to switch those two. So instead of row 1 being up here, we would put row 1 down here. We're not changing anything. And I'm looking through my phone, so this is, and I'll put row 2 on the top. So I just swapped them. That's all you did. Okay, now notice this is messy. This is an arrow going this way, and it says it wants a new row 2. So it's not messing with row 1 at all. Okay, all of these is giving me a new row 2. So the very first thing I would do is I would copy down, go back to your original matrix, I would copy down my first row. It's not changing at all. Even if I mess with my first row, my final answer will not change. Okay, so it wants me to take, what do I do to get my new row 2? It wants a third of row 2. When you take a third of something, that means you just divide it by 3, or in your calculator, you can hit 1/3 times that number. So I tried to make this really nice, but a third of that, 9 divided by 3 is 3. So I'll come up here like this. A third of that, 3 divided by 3 is 1. And a third of that, 27 divided by 3 is 9. So that's it. So it just made a new row 2. Again, I'm gonna get a new row 2. So I know that row 1's not gonna, in the end, it will not mess. So I'm gonna go up here, and I'm gonna rewrite it. 2, -2, and 12. Okay, there's my little bar. So how do I get my new row 2? Well, it wants you to multiply row 1 by -2, and then add that to the value in row 2. And you're like, what? No big deal. So I'm gonna come up here, take -2 times row 1. So I'm gonna start here. 2 times -2 is what, -4? And then I'm gonna add it to that. Well, -4, do it all in your calculator if you want. -4 plus 9 is 5. So that's my new value. Okay, so let's try that one more time. What does this say to do? Take the value in row 1 and multiply it by -2. So here's my value in row 1, multiply it by -2. 2 times -2 is -4. Then add it to row 2. Well, -4 plus 9, bam, 5. Now we're gonna do it again. It says take the value in row 1, multiply it by -2. Well, -2 times -2 is a +4. Add it to that, 4 plus 3 is 7. So that's my new value. Okay, now, who knows why? It's just we're practicing having them tell us what to do. We're gonna even do that down here for my constant. It says take -2 times row 1. Well, -2 times that's what, -24? -24 plus 27 is what, 3? And that would be my answer. Now, this is gonna be the same, even if my matrix is huge. I just didn't wanna make this video long.